Ivy Valentine subscribes to Mark Yoon, so should you. Enjoy your treat!
What's up, guys? So, with all these games coming out, especially these fighting games, we got like Tekken coming out, looking like maybe early 2024. We got Mortal Kombat 12 coming out in September, or Mortal Kombat 1. We got Naruto Storm Connections coming out sometime this year. There's a bunch of fighting games coming out, and this made me start thinking about, we've talked a lot about the financials of Soulcalibur 7. We've talked a lot about how financiers actually are in charge of all that stuff. We talked about marketing, we've talked about direction, everything. But now I want to talk about what they should apply their changes to with whatever new limited budget that they're going to be having. So we do know that they are going to be receiving an increase in budget for the next installment of the series. However, we don't know how much that budget is going to be. Now, tangibly based off the game's sales from the last game, that being Soulcalibur 6, with about 2 million physical sales, and we can't count digital because a lot of the stores don't release that information, same as PC. So going with what we know, which is the actual 2 million physical sales, which are the units shipped, how much budget are they going to be getting extra based on that? Well, it depends on a lot of things. Budget was the money that goes into the game, and they want a return on investment. We've already talked about that. So when the game sells over 2 million copies, we don't know how many of those are actually on sale or how many of those were with different price points, because once they're shipped, they do actually make the money from it, and the retailers lose money when they put them on sale. So like, they still get the full price for the market value of the actual game at whatever the cost was. Usually they don't, charge the full tax, everything like that. But when we're going to be talking about this new game, we want to talk about where the budget should actually go. Where should it be allocated to make the game a much better version of itself than Soulcalibur 6 would have been. First and foremost, in my opinion, a lot more budget needs to go into the production value of the game. One of the common complaints that I hear about Soulcalibur 6 is that TLDR, there was walls of text they didn't read, so it made a lot of people skip different aspects of the story. While there were cinematics, they were sporadic and few and far between, especially with modes like Libra of Souls, which is where more than half of the game's lore is actually hid behind, and all the encyclopedia stuff gets unlocked through that mode. So a lot of people actually just didn't even play that mode because they didn't feel like just traveling around and then watching talking heads because there was no audio or anything like that. So I think if you actually take the time to put not only cinematics in the game, maybe even hire a third-party studio like they did with Soulcalibur 5 and outsource that to CC2, whether they do it in-house, some of that monetary budget needs to go towards production value. Now the second thing, and it's also equally important to me, is the netcode. So the netcode definitely needs like a big improvement. This peer-to-peer stuff is not working, and Bandai Namco needs to literally mandate that all their games have some form of new netcode, whether it be rollback, whether it be like delayed frames, like any of those like would be way better than this peer-to-peer stuff that we have now. Because when you get to a selection now where there's like 1,000 consecutive players all like worldwide online, like on PC anyway, then that's not many people to connect to or to just bring their ping and it's a low PNG, and then we're not going to have a good match. It's just going to be like a slideshow. And trust me, I've seen some pretty poor matches and connections online when it comes to this peer-to-peer system. Now I know this is only for the creation fans out there, but the race system actually needs to definitely be adjusted, and they have to put more time and money into that. There's a lot of items and things that are missing from past games that they either need to recreate in this new engine if they're using Unreal Engine 5, or just trying to find some way to port them over and up-res the polygons, because there's no excuse for us to be missing things at this point. We should literally just have extra. It is the 7th installment of the game, and we've had creation since like Soulcalibur 3, and in the other titles such as like the PSP, Broken Destiny, the free-to-play game that they had for a while, they're like a ton, right? So there shouldn't be any excuse at this time. Money needs to go into that. Definitely. And we also need to adjust the race system. I don't mind if they keep the races as long as they aren't like automatically allocated to having locked items on them. For example, one of the races had horns that were not adjustable at all. Like if you're going to make them forced to have horns, then at least give us an array of horns to choose from, or make the horns editable so that like when we're actually trying to create somebody within that race, the items that are locked behind that race are unable to be recreated. For example, in Soulcalibur 5, I created Nightcrawler. I tried to make him in this, but unfortunately Kurt's tail is locked behind that one race, and they are locked with horns, so it's pretty much impossible to make him unless you get really creative and take hours like trying to manipulate stuff in the accessories round, of which you only have 3. those limitations need to be expanded or removed also. I don't want to see any more like sticker limits of 8 of 8. I don't want to see any more of that stuff. And if your game is taking up too much RAM, just from like that kind of stuff, then like you need to focus on a better system, just so that we actually have more capabilities in the creation engine itself. But I know a lot of people don't care about the creation engine, so I'm going to move off of that topic. Another thing they need to actually work on is their battle systems, the gameplay. Yes, there is a lot of compounded gameplay mechanics that have come over from past games that have been altered and changed, and they're kind of mishmashed in Soulcalibur 6, and a lot of it needs to get toned down. Now, I know a lot of people don't like meter systems, except for having things such as like just impacts or guard breaks or perfect guards and things of that nature, but a lot of people really don't like reversal edge, especially because it's a freebie. If you're mashing it, you're pretty much going to be able to gain super even if you don't land it, and when you gain meter, you can go right into your ultimate attack or your critical edge, which a lot of people have trouble with, especially when you're playing against AI, because they tend to spam that kind of stuff. Now, not necessarily online too much, because a skilled or talented player is going to know how to avoid that, but the hitboxes are different for every character, so it is a little bit of a difficult thing unless you know every single character's hitbox. So if you're like a main that only uses like one certain character, it's pretty hard to like learn how to do that unless you put some serious time into the game. But unlike you guys, most of us play other games besides just Soulcalibur, right? So that's definitely something else that needs to be adjusted. So besides putting more money and monetary value into those systems, we also need better back-end systems. Like we need some more memory, we need some more RAM. All of that stuff like needs to be in place so the game actually runs better. So the engine in of itself needs an overhaul, and being ported into Unreal Engine 5 or created from the ground up in whichever way they're deciding to do that, I really think they need to take the time to actually look at the mechanics. Because it didn't seem like there was too much quality assurance on the back end of that game. Maybe they couldn't afford the quality assurance test because there was a lot of bugs and glitches, especially prominent in the beginning stages of the game. Some of it's been patched, some of it hasn't. There's a lot of clipping issues when it comes to the creation engine, even with the regular characters, when you're just editing costumes on top of them. So things like that really make a game look unpolished, and it really turns certain people off when they're trying to play that, especially when you're going against like Tekken 8 and like Mortal Kombat 12, which are like gorgeous games. When you go over and you play that, I've seen a ton of people already say that like Soulcalibur 4 was the best looking one and Soulcalibur 6 looks like a PS3 game, just because they didn't have the time or money to develop that system better, and they reused a lot of assets. So building things from the ground up, or actually being able to properly import these things into the new engine, is actually going to take their game a long way, and I really think that that would actually behoove them to do so that more people are actually drawn to play the game. The last thing I want to talk about is hit detection and latency. There needs to be money put into that as well, and it needs to be highly tested, because there's certain times where inputs aren't actually registered properly, and if you try to execute a combo or a move, it may fall or break or not register an input or register it too late. So therefore, let's say if you're hitting square, 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 triangle, it won't register one of the squares, and you end up not doing the the actual combo. So this can be a problem because there's already latency that's built into these games, because we have latency from our TVs to the controller. We have latencies due to internet, especially if you're not hardlined and you don't have good internet. There's a bunch of latency that is actually built and baked in. So any kind of way that we can actually remove some of that and alleviate that is obviously going to make things better. We also need to add certain features like accessibility features. For example, we need like a colorblind mode, because it's really hard when you're trying to create characters in the engine if you're colorblind and you have to memorize digital numbers because they don't tell you actually what color you're on. And take it from somebody like me who's going online and people are like, I like your cable, but why is he green? type of thing. It can be embarrassing unless you're unassisted by that. So I think some kind of colorblind mode, or even visual impairment mode, or even like some kind of auditory mode for people with disabilities can have easier access to actually play the game itself also. So there's just a lot of little things. Those are the top things for me that I think they should allocate the budget towards. I want to hear from you guys now. What do you think? Like, I know I missed a bunch of stuff that like I want in a perfect world to see, but I want to hear from you anyway and bring the conversation to the Discord and to the comment section down below. I also want to thank my members. You guys are the backbones of my channel, and welcome Sir Blaze Wolf. He just joined this week, and I appreciate you. So he's joined the likes of Solarflame95 and Atherin Dragoneel. So if you want to become a member, just please click the join button and you'll see a ton of options, and that would support my channel so much, and I'd thank you for that. Any and all thoughts are always welcome, guys, and as I always say, I love it. Thank you.
And thank you.